What's up, people? This is Whiskey in the 6. I'm Rob. Today I'm actually re-reviewing the Macallan Ruby. The reason for that is the first time I recorded the Macallan Ruby and reviewed it, it was my first recording, and it was a train wreck for all sorts of different reasons. The quality of, I didn't have the lighting on, I didn't have the quality of the camera as good as I possibly can for what I do have. Like I said, all sorts of reasons why it was a mess. And actually, what really sparked my desire to re-review it is I had a little bit more of this earlier on this week, and my opinion has changed. As you can see, like I said, this is the Macallan Ruby. Okay, there's not very much left. There's maybe a fifth of the bottle left. And what I have noticed is the bottle has drastically changed. It's had some time to oxidize over the period that it's been open, and it's much better than it was when I first opened it. I wish I had waited for this one because, like I said, it's much better. So, just to go over a few things, I will be deleting my old video. Like I said, it was a train wreck. You're not missing anything if you haven't watched it. It was the first of the Whiskey in the 6 videos. I kind of explained, the reason for the name, the 6 being Toronto, me being from Toronto, that sort of thing. I didn't want to call it Liquor in the 6. I talked about that in a video before this one. So Whiskey in the 6 was the name, inspired by Drake a little bit, because Drake has named the 6, being the ambassador of the Toronto Raptors, he's named Toronto the 6. So Whiskey in the 6 is the name. This is actually my 18th video, but technically this is going back to my first review. So, to the Macallan Ruby. It's exclusively aged in first fill sherry casks from Jerez, Spain. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know in Spanish the J is pronounced like an H, so it's spelt J-E-R-E-Z. Jerez, I believe. If I'm incorrect, you can correct me on the comments below. Macallan owns its own bodega, so they get their barrels and their aging wine. They control all of that, so it cuts costs. They're known to be the cream of the crop when it comes to the Scotch industry. For that reason, they dropped the age statement on the bottle because they couldn't keep up with the demand of Macallan throughout the world. Okay, the United States still has a large selection of age statement Macallans. The 15-year-old is an example. My brother picked this up for me in Florida. When he went to Florida about a year ago, he picked up the 12-year-old for me. There's still a ton of age statement Macallan available throughout the United States. In Ontario, there's 0 age statement Macallan available. Actually, I think the 21-year-old came out for a brief time in Ontario, but it's really expensive. It's about $750 Canadian. Depending on where you buy it in Canada, it varies about $100 to $200. In the United States, I believe it's anywhere between $400 and $500 American. So the 21-year-old is pretty close to untouchable for me. It's really, really expensive Scotch. At this moment, I'm not going to invest $700 in a bottle of Scotch just yet. This is $350. Would I buy another bottle? I don't think so. That doesn't change the fact that it's still very good Scotch, okay? I wouldn't buy another bottle because, A, I gotta continue to buy different things so I can stay relevant on this review and do brand new things weekly. But B, because there are better scotches available at a lower price, okay? The Glengoyne 18-year-old is half the price of the Macallan Ruby, and it's a better scotch in my opinion, okay? It might be even older than Macallan. Macallan and Glengoyne use the same barley in their scotch. They're the only two distilleries that still use, I believe it's Golden Promise or something like that. So it's a higher yield, more expensive barley to produce, and it actually makes the scotch a little bit better, from my experience. I mean, I could be wrong. There are great expressions in different lines across Scotland, so I don't think it's necessary to use this particular barley, but Macallan and Glengoyne do a very good job of it, and I'm not complaining. Anyway, to the Ruby. Okay, on the nose you get a ton of orange, some milk chocolate, you get some raisin, there's some oakiness. It's pretty oaky, but I found, and this is interesting, as the bottle has had some opportunity to breathe, it actually has become less oaky, less spice from the oak, which I actually prefer. Before it was a little too overpowering, the oak, in my opinion. Okay? It has a very sweet nose now. It actually reminds me a lot more now of the Glengoyne 18-year-old than it did when I first opened it. Okay? On the palate, okay, so the oakiness has calmed down a lot here as well with time to breathe. It's not as bitter oak. It's more refined oak. It's had a chance to mellow out a little bit. You still get it, but it's more pleasant. It's not as bitter as it was in the beginning of this bottle. You get some cinnamon. A little bit of bitter cocoa, I would say, but the bitterness has mellowed out a whole bunch as well. It was way more bitter before, now it's a lot more sweet, a lot more smooth. Okay, another taste. Okay, very little alcohol bite. It's bottled at 43%. So not very high, definitely not cask strength. It's natural color, which is a great thing. It's not, it is chill filtered. So like Glengoyne, they don't add any unnatural coloring, but they do chill filter their whiskey. Okay, the color comes from exclusively being aged in sherry oak. Like I said earlier, from Jerez, Spain. It's good stuff. I mean, the color, as you can see, I wouldn't necessarily call it ruby, okay, but it's dark. It's a darker dram, okay? Darker than the sienna, darker than the amber, darker than the gold, which is the intention of the distillery, okay? I would still prefer the amber over this, more because of cost, less because of quality, okay? The amber is $100 Canadian, this is $350 Canadian. There's a big difference there. And there's not that immense a difference in the quality of the taste for me to keep going to this, okay? Like I said, this is $180. I prefer this. It's an 18-year-old, you get the age statement right on the bottle, but that doesn't take anything away from the Macallan Ruby. It's still very good. They have an opportunity. They're very popular. They're taking advantage of that opportunity, okay? So they charge $350, and I'm assuming they're doing pretty well in sales because Macallan is one of the leading Scotch sellers in the world. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna bump the mark on this. Originally, I'd given it a B+. I said that I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't recommend buying it. I'm gonna take that back. If you have the money and you like your sherry bomb type scotch, go for this. Pick it up. Give it a shot. Compare it to the Sienna. Compare it to the Amber. A head-to-head taste test is ideal because it actually gives you a little bit better perspective of where the quality is. Okay, so pick up a bottle if you can afford it. If not, go to a bar. Make sure you give it a shot. All right, because it is good stuff, and I'm gonna have to give this an A-. Originally, I gave it a B+. I'm gonna bump it up to an A-. It is better near the end of the bottle. If you get an opportunity, this is probably a scotch that would benefit from being in a decanter. So pour the bottle into the decanter. Give it a shot before you do that. Make sure you're okay with it, because sometimes people prefer that heavy oak taste, that heavy spice that comes from oakiness. So before you decide to pour this into the decanter, don't waste your $350. Make sure you give it a shot first. Okay, guys, A-. Thank you very much. Please comment any questions below. I'm more than happy to answer. You can also ask me questions on @Whisky_in_the6 for Instagram, or @Whisky_in_the_6 on Twitter. Cheers, guys.